You can't have a 40-year career without making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think they're tough. It's tough to tell yourself you've made a mistake. It's really tough to walk into the bosses and say that you've made a mistake. But they're learning experiences, right? I mean, you can either be paralyzed by it or you can figure out what went wrong and move forward.
This is Entrepreneurs the Playbook, where I give you access each week to the world's greatest athletes and executives about their personal and professional playbook and what has made them champions on and off the field. This is the Playbook. Hi, this is Dave Meltzer, CEO of Sports One Marketing with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I am blessed to have Cindi Grace with me. There's all types of titles for HR people. There's Chief Talent Officer. What's the special title at Western Digital?
Well, I'm not an HR person.
Oh,
but it is the Chief HR Officer.
Yeah.
I'm actually in charge of communications and global marketing now.
I should have known by our pre-conversation you were not an HR person.
I am not an HR person.
But now, you've been at Western Digital a few years.
Yeah.
You don't look it,
Thank
but
you.
actually 40 years. Is that correct?
It'll be 40 years next year, 2019.
It's very rare, and I'm probably your age, maybe a little older, but it's very rare for someone to stay at a company nowadays for that long.
Right.
In fact, we were going through kind of Southern California executive geography, and I mentioned one of your executives that had been in like 4 companies already.
Uh-huh.
Why or how is it that you stayed so long at one company?
I think, Western Digital is a very unique kind of place. When I started, we were making chips for TI calculators, and it's a company that's been able to evolve and transform itself and keep up with the time and technology. So it's very exciting. I mean, we've been through now 3 or 4 transformations, chips, boards, hard drives. We've acquired now SanDisk, Tegile up there. So we're doing flash memory, we're doing more platform-oriented solutions. And because the company continues to evolve, there's lots of opportunity. And Western Digital has always wanted to promote from within. We bring talent from the outside in so that we can kind of benchmark ourselves. But the DNA of Western Digital is just something that you grow up with and you learn it. You just either you have it or you don't. And so it's pretty cool. I've had a great career there. They've been very good about promoting me and giving me opportunities. And my philosophy there and the philosophy of the company is if you're smart and you work hard, there's going to be something here for you. And my life certainly would be an example of work hard and get rewarded.
And that's awesome. I always looked and drove by Western Digital. I've had lots of friends through all the evolutionary things. In fact, for entrepreneurs, I think it's a great lesson because they always ask me, what's the number one thing you should tell me? I said, stay in business. Uh-huh. Because if you stay in business with one thing, an open mind, you'll just keep evolving, but you have to stay in business.
Right.
I always heard about Western Digital early on. I worked for West Publishing, so West Law.
Yeah.
And I ran Samsung's first phone division.
Oh, wow.
So worked in the chip side of things for a
didn't
while.
know that.
And people used to say, Western Digital is like a parachute. And I didn't understand it. And Dr. Jacobs at Qualcomm was a mentor of mine. And so I asked him, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, because parachutes only work if they're open. and he goes, I see Western Digital. They have open minds. They're always open, to understanding business and whatever dealings that, in Qualcomm had grown at the same time zone and rate as you.
Right.
And have evolved as well.
Right.
And so I thought it was really interesting. Now, 40 years ago, and as a woman in a company like that, it's a little different situation.
It is.
And, my mom always said she was aggravated, went to Ohio State and top of her class. And she said, it just aggravates me that all the boys that used to cheat off me now are, these successful executives and women became nurses and teachers.
Right.
And was that true when you were kind of growing up? Or
it was. I won the Bank of America Business Award in high school, and it was because I could type. And I could do shorthand, which half the people in the world today don't even know. That was the qualifications, right, for a woman in business. So it's very different. I would agree with you. I look at my peers at the same time and where they are today. I'm relatively satisfied with my ability to keep up with that pack.
Yeah.
But I see so often women just don't get the support that they need. And they don't always have the chutzpah that they need to just, muscle on through it. You really have to be adaptable in order to make this work.
Yeah, even though Western Digital was an open company, an evolving company, and a quality company, there's still a public culture that was working against you. So you had to have chutzpah. and I like that because I think to be an entrepreneur, whether today, because there's much more equality, that's the one ingredient that I look for in kids. We talk about it's not entitlement, it's not empowerment. It's chutzpah, which if people don't know because they didn't have a Jewish grandma like me, it's nerves or pelotas. It's
That's right.
It's someone that's going to ask and get no 50 times and keep on asking until they get what they want and are willing to put the effort in.
And you have to have a culture that's willing to let you make mistakes. You can't be successful if you don't learn, right? I mean, that's when I think about my career, I think I'm successful when I'm learning. When I get stagnant, everything around me gets that way. And so it's just super important that you're in an environment that allows you to do that.
And whether you're a man or a woman.
Whether you're a man or a woman.
The fear of failure and the fear of making mistakes, I don't want to, if you're not making mistakes, I'm worried in my business.
That's exactly right.
We're not trying anything, we're not growing. I speak a lot around the world, and I'll start out by talking about forgiveness and how important it is in my business,
Right.
and that you have to forgive yourself so you can give forgiveness to others.
Right.
And so I'll say, who here has made a mistake? And of course, everyone raises their hand, and then I say, who here has made a mistake this morning? Everyone raises their hand. And then why is it we get so mad at people for making mistakes?
Exactly. I would far rather have someone who made a mistake because they pushed the boundaries than someone who stays in the box. And I think that's probably how I would surmise my career. I've just pushed boundaries. I was raised with 3 girls in my family. My dad never had a boy and wanted a boy, and I was that boy. And so from very early on, he just kept telling me, it really doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. It only matters how smart you are and how hard you're willing to work. And I just grew up that way. So although I've been in environments where it's been tougher because of being a woman, I think that support from my dad and just being brought up that way with don't look back and just keep moving forward and you can do whatever anybody else can do really made a huge difference. There certainly has been some glass ceilings in my career over the years. I wouldn't say I've got one now. It depends on management, depends on philosophy, it depends on culture. To your point, a lot of the people that I've worked for or with are my age or older. And they still sometimes look across the table and see their wife, right?
Yeah,
and it's super important that, in business, you make sure that that's not what they're looking at first. And so.
That's interesting. How many other people at Western Digital have been there as long as you?
No one.
Wow.
That's me.
Amazing. That is awesome.
Amazing. I've worked for every CEO we've had except for 2. I know every one of them personally.
Yeah.
It's just been a fantastic ride.
So do you think if you went to another company that you still, because you have this great personality, you have great perseverance, you came from a great culture of belief. Like my mom taught me, right? Don't put faith in the past, put faith in the future.
Right.
Which is the exact same thing, right? And everyone has their own disadvantages. So when I played sports, that's when I most felt discriminated against because the minute I stepped onto a field, last one picked, right? You'll never play here. All the way through college, you'll never play here. And I just kept, persevering. And one of the best things in my life was the fact that I played college football and I actually played. Now I wasn't good enough to make the NFL, but that pursuit is what I want, right? But and then nobody thought I would, and I imagine, nobody would have looked forward for you and said, well, 40 years from now you'll be the key executive of Western Digital and lead men and women. There is a responsibility though, because there's so much going on with women entrepreneurs, and it's most people don't realize it's the fastest growing segment of small business are women business owners and entrepreneurs.
Right.
Do you mentor or, where do you give back to, and I'm sure it's probably not knowing your personality, you give back to just younger people, not just women. I have this feeling.
I do. I mean, I spend a lot of time, in my career today, I spend a lot of time developing people. Because 10 years from now, I hope I'm retired off someplace else.
Me too.
And at this point in my career, I'm looking at who's going to take the bench next, and how am I going to make someone else's life better, right? Because at this point, it's not about how smart I am anymore. It's just about how well I can lead people and strategically set direction. And then you just kind of have to get out of their way and let them move. And so that's. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
What does leadership mean to you? It's defined in different ways. So, what is a good leader?
A good leader is a good listener. A good leader is a good communicator. And a good leader tells the truth. I think, when I look at, Western Digital's been through some ups and some downs, and I look at the tough times we've been through, people respond to truth. And if you don't tell people the truth, they make up their own. And we've had more problems with people making up their own truth than just telling them the way that it is. And so at Western Digital, I'm probably more the open book than anybody else is, but people will tell you, I tell the truth, that they're comfortable with me and they know that, we're going to move forward as a team and we're going to get through it. And so that's the thing you have to have is confidence, right? You've got to be able to instill confidence in a team, whether you believe it or not, that everything's going to be okay and that you move forward. And if you can do that, people respond very well. They know what to do. It's fear that paralyzes people.
Absolutely.
And it's confidence that will move them forward.
That's so good. And what I've noticed about all great leaders, by the way, is that when you ask them about leadership, there's no delay. Right? when you see someone and say, what does leadership mean to you? And they say, well, I'm like, oh, we don't have a leader. Right? It's just very clear. And integrity to me is absolutely up there, as well as accountability. I think all great leaders take accountability. And because I have a sports background, I love when the head coach gets in front of the press and takes full accountability. No blame, shame, justification.
Right.
And all the greatest coaches, which are the greatest leaders, I love the fact that you just get up there. Have you had an experience where you had to take accountability from one of the mistakes that you made that you had to move forward?
Oh, of course. I mean, you can't have a 40-year career without making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think they're tough. It's tough to tell yourself you've made a mistake. It's really tough to walk into the bosses and say that you've made a mistake. But they're learning experiences, right? I mean, you can either be paralyzed by it or you can figure out what went wrong and move forward. I think we were talking right after the 2016 election, because I had business and analytics in my group at the time. And I came in the morning after the results, and I said, you know what? This is all about assumptions. Right? This is a bad set of assumptions. These people worked super hard. They thought they were doing the right thing. They just had the wrong assumptions. And that can happen here too, right? And so we just use that as a lesson. And so, yeah, I've had to make mistakes. But I've also had bosses that I've learned great lessons from. I've had some that haven't been great, but the good leaders are the ones that say, I got your back. You go do what you're going to do. And within our team, I'm going to protect you, right? So as long as you're working hard, if you make a mistake, it's a team mistake. It's not a you, it's not a me, it's about the team. And then we have to learn and move on. It's when you place blame that things start to unravel.
Yeah, there comes shame and justification.
Right, then there's no
The
learning.
truth vibrates the fastest, like you said earlier, so eventually it's going to come out.
Right.
When you have, and you've been in your career like me, and everybody has one, but when you have a bad boss, what advice would you give to somebody during that period of time?
You have to be authentic to yourself, right? I mean, you have to know there's a line beyond which you're not going to go. And if you don't draw boundaries, then you will be taken advantage of and you'll be miserable. I learned that lesson the hard way. I've had lots of years to have good and bad bosses. But when you have a boss, where personalities aren't exactly aligned, you just do what you do, right? You lead your teams, you work on results, and you don't worry so much about that interpersonal relationship in terms of the dynamics of what's going on. It's the dynamics of what's going on with the team. And I try to tell myself all the time, it's not personal, it's just business, right? There are situations, obviously, where things can be really bad and then you've got to take measures. But, in general, it's just over-communicating and making sure that you perform. And then you just have to let it go. Just like you've got, in high school or college, there were people that you liked and that you didn't like. You're always going to run into that. And I tell my people all the time, you're never going to always work for the person that you love, right? And so you got to learn how to adapt.
How do you stay so positive and infuse, I can tell, and tell me if I'm assuming wrong, but throughout good and bad bosses, throughout the good times at Western Digital's and the more difficult time at Western Digital, you seem to have come to work smiling every day, and you seem to take the positive perspective of it. And even though there's difficult times, what advice or perspective do you take to do that? Like, what tools or skills is it that allows you to say, good, I get to go to work today, like finding blessings in the silver lining type of attitude? Because you definitely are a toptimist.
I am an optimist.
No, you're the toptimist. You're a high optimist. There's optimists, there's people, you're exuding high positive energy, and I feel it, I love it. You can stay here all day.
Thank you. I think that's probably the biggest driver, right? The team responds to the leader. If the leader's worried or the leader's upset, the team gets nervous, right? And I've seen that over the years. I've made mistakes in that regard, right? Where I am an open book and people have seen the bad days or when things aren't going well. And that does tend to set the whole team off, and I've seen that before. So every day I come in and say, you know what, I've got a great job, I've got a great team, I have a good family, and a pretty good life in Orange County. My problems are quality problems to have, right?
Right.
And oh, by the way, there's 300 people over here who want to know everything's going to be okay, and you're the beacon by which they are judging that. And so if you don't come in with a good attitude, and it just permeates throughout the organization, and then you're just not productive. And so it's not easy. I mean, there are mornings when I just don't want to do it. Yeah. But you know, you walk in and you've got 5 people who want to talk to you, and it's like, this could be a drag or this can be a lot of fun. So let's just make it a lot of fun.
Right. I always tell people, it's so simple to put a switch in your mind. I get to do this, not I have to do this.
Right, right.
And we can find, you know, blessings in so many different things. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
You've had an extraordinary career.
Yes.
And you're an extraordinary person, and it's this blessing to have you here.
Thank you.
I have 3 daughters.
Yes.
And I adore them. But I don't, you know, I always say just because someone loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. I grew up with 4 brothers and a sister, a very male-dominated career, male-dominated college and law school, you know, and so I do have a wife who gives great advice, but business-wise, I would love for you to give all the young teenage women, young women, and your best piece of advice.
Don't let anyone tell you no. Know what you want. Be sure you know what you want, because at the level that I operate today, my family life is different than most people's are, and you have to make some sacrifices. But if you're willing to make those sacrifices, and if it's that important to you, then just don't let anybody get in your way. There's going to be changes in the path, you know, and you're going to have to shift and move, but keep your eye on the goal. And I'm a person that can tell you that I laid in bed when I was 17 years old, and I wanted to run a company in 1979, right?
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, I ran an $11 billion business for 12 years. So it's a big deal. And I think that it's perseverance. It's picking the right mentors. And when I picked mentors, I didn't pick people who were nice to me. My mentors were tough. In fact, some of the toughest people that we had at Western Digital. But I knew that if I could make my way with those folks, and I could make them positive about the results of what we were doing, that I was going to be okay. And so pick the tough mentors, be true to yourself, know what you want, and set some boundaries. That's the one thing I would say about myself today, is I didn't really know how to set boundaries. And so there wasn't a lot of balance in my life until I got a little bit older. And so I guess if I summarize the whole thing, I'd say, know what you want, have some boundaries for yourself, and make sure that, you know, that you have balance in your life. You'll be a better leader that way.
That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure my girls watch this, because they certainly don't always listen to me. My big line for them is, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
There you
That's
go.
the best I got for them.
There you go.
You know, it's funny, because my name, David Meltzer, David means beloved, Meltzer in German means waiter, and I live my life of service. And that took me years to figure out, to be of service to others and to provide more value than I'm taking, to be a motivator, not a manipulator. And that's what you are. But I love your name because it really suits you, Cindi Grace, because you're just so graceful, and you're full of grace. And I'm grateful to have you on here.
Thank
and
you
I
for
hope
having
many, many women watch this, and men. It's just as important as well, because you know, I think there is true equality and opportunity today, and on both sides we have to deal with different issues, but
don't let anybody stop you.
That's right. Be persistent, enjoy what you do, and I certainly have enjoyed this. Thank you, Cindi Grace. This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, The Playbook.